What is going on, everyone? It's DJ Kuhl. Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at Grime 808s in drill. So first we got to address what Grime 808s are, and basically Grime 808s are 808s that are in Grime, and they sound like crazy. They're going to be having more distortion, like just different filters, and they just sound crazy. So I figured I shouldn't really talk about it. I'll play some of the ones out of this ghosty kit here just to give you an idea of the extent that some of them can go to. So we got some like this. So, you know, as you can hear there, it sounded a lot different than your normal sort of 808s that you're hearing in drill, like those low sort of sub stuff that, you know, is very common to work with. I've heard the term Grime 808s be used to describe sort of any 808 with a good amount of distortion in it. For example, something like this, like that is a really kind of thick, a lot of distortion, especially if you go higher up, you're gonna hear a lot more sort of distortion. Not really distortion, it just feels wider and bigger and a lot more mid-end than your normal sort of 808 like that, for comparison there. And then also something like this, it sounded a lot more, you know, top heavy. You know, I feel like this one could be distorted. I don't know the whole effect chain that went into making this 808, but definitely a lot more going on in terms of upper end than the normal sort of sub that you're accustomed to hearing. So now that we've briefly touched on what Grime 808s are, I'm gonna play this beat for you that I've started. I made it off before we started the video, and I'm gonna be taking this basic 808 pattern that I have in here, and I'm gonna be adding in Grime 808s the way I like to do them. So, you know, this isn't like a definitive guide, but you know, let's jump in, listen to the beat first so we know what we're working with, and then I'll break down my process when it comes to Grime 808s. And after I do that, I'm gonna break down my thoughts on Grime 808s, you know, if I see them being big in the future or whatnot, and I'll just kind of give my 2 cents about it. So without any further ado, here's the beat we're working with. So it's not anything crazy right now, but basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be swapping out some of these 808s here. I just have them in as placeholders so I know what notes go where. And I'm just going to be swapping some of these out for Grime 808s. First advice on using Grime 808s is don't overuse them. Like if you're just going crazy all the time, like I don't think that's valid, at least for my style. You know, you might have some sort of different style where you're doing your basic drill piano and the melody is really basic, so you could use Grime 808s as sort of a second melody or a counter melody. But just personally, I'm not a huge fan of spamming Grime 808s, and what I see as a good sort of use for them is I keep it normal for 2 bars, and then for the second 2-bar phrase we start off normal, and then I'm gonna swap out this down here for some Grime 808s. So first, I'm going to use this sauce one here, and I like this one because it's got a lot of presence. You can do a lot of higher slides. It has a good amount of sub presence, but it also has some good mid high end, but it doesn't really overdo it. So I'll just do sort of some basic, what, 8th note chops or 16th notes, whatever. And let's we are in B minor harmonic, so we'll stay in key here and just do some slides. So not anything crazy, but if you listen to the transition from, you know, sub and then, you know, definitely got a lot more going on. But I'm going to be adding in this 808 here on top of what we already got to add even more. Before I do that though, I'm going to pop into the mixer here and I'm going to drop in a parametric EQ, because what I like to do with 808s like this one, especially when I already have an 808 like that, was it that that sauce one in there. I like to sort of isolate your low mid to, you know, just mids in general. I'm not a huge fan of keeping some of the high mids in, but it really depends on what kind of sound I'm going for, and I'm not really getting a 100% accurate mix because I am using headphones, but, you know, we're going to give it our best shot here. And what I like to do with this, to just really add some sort of crazy bounce and stuff, is to put notes in like before here. So like I'll drop a few in here, and like I start over here and maybe do something like this. Not going too high up. I'm just trying to grab it and move it down. But basically, you can do something. Just nothing crazy. And once I get that done, what I like to do is I'm going to select everything and then just pan it left, right, left, right. I mean, it doesn't even need to be panned all the way out there. If you want to you know, drag it in a little bit like that, so it's not like completely isolated in one ear, you can have a really dope sound. It's not like super bassy, but it allows you to have something that's going to be more ear catching for the listener, and, you know, add some more to your beats. So here's what it sounds like, that this phrase here. And, you know, we can get crazier too. I like to sometimes add distortion onto stuff too, but, you know, just keeping it basic for right now. We can go back in and I'll show you my mixing process a little later. All right, so I'm going to stay true to that rule. I'm going to leave this phrase blank here, you know, unchanged, and then I'll go to the end here. You know, sometimes if I'm really getting bored with the pattern, I can maybe add a slide on the basic sort of sub 808, but, you know, I'm just not going to touch it for right now. And let's go to the end here, and let's add in that sauce 808. Once I pan it back to the middle, you know, honestly, if I want to get 100%, we can just grab that. So we do have a little chord change here that I just didn't map out, but what I'm thinking about doing is, you don't always need to slide up, you can slide down. So let's see how sliding down with a sort of longer slide time sounds. That's hard. And we could just have some crazy slides here. At the end, we'll go back and grab the same slide length we were working with. So we're sliding down, and then that's crazy. That is so dope. And then let's combine that again with the second 808, the static one here. I'm gonna make sure we're keeping somewhat consistent. So we got C sharp here. We'll keep it panned middle for right now. We'll pan everything after, so I'll just kind of have the slides here. And what we can do, we don't need to always pan back and forth like that. We could have two on one side, like, or we could, you know, have all in the middle. But I'm a big fan of panning, so I'm just gonna sort of stick with what we've been doing, you know, back and forth, back and forth. And we got something that sound more interesting. So I'm going to play this whole phrase that we just created. Then I'll get into putting in a kick and doing some more mixing so I can show you guys, you know, the way that I like to do it. But here's what we created so far. So we definitely spiced up that 808 pattern. If you think back to the beginning, it was getting really, really boring. So, you know, definitely mixing up the 808s and adding in some of those more grimy ones. You know, they might not be 100% grime, but, you know, as I said, I've heard the word grime be used to describe 808s with a lot of distortion and stuff. So, yeah, that's that. Moving on to the mixer here, we got the normal 808 and 6. We got the normal 808 and 6. We got that static one, which is the one we were panning back and forth in 7. And then we got the slidey 808 in number 8. And I'm going to label those real quick so we can have an easier time with that. For the normal 808, what I always like to do is I just like to drop a EQ on there. So what I like to do is just add an EQ, cutting out stuff below the sub. Putting this EQ might not seem like a lot, but it can make a world of difference, you know, when you're mixing, especially when you're listening with speakers. So I'll just move that back up here. And when it comes to the grimy, slidey one, I do the same thing. Just put that 808 on, and depending on, you know, when I mix the kick in, you know, depending on how much clashing's going on with the melody, sometimes I'll feel the need to throw a little high pass on there just to cut out the, you know, more of the higher frequencies, keep it sort of contained. You know, I should probably throw in the kick before we really get into mixing. Now, I like to keep everything similar volume, all the 808s, and sometimes a compressor is needed for that. If you got some higher stuff, you can set the threshold down. I like to have my ratio pretty high, but make sure you're not compressing it too much, because then you're just gonna have it sound kind of weird. But basically, I'm trying to have everything hang, you know, up in this range here. I'll boost it over here, the volume. In a similar vein, I'm going to throw a EQ and cut out some of those higher frequencies. Keep it contained. And I'm also going to throw a compressor on here, throw the ratio up around here, drop it back a little bit. Yeah, that's compressing too much. You can hear it sounds weird. I'm just trying to get this normal one and this grimy slide one to be equal volume. And I think I got it. It's not perfect, but it is really close on the volume level. And that's about all I do for mixing. Sometimes when I'm trying to, you know, achieve a more darker and aggressive sound, I'll throw some distortion on there just to get it sounding a little more crazy, a little more evil sounding. But I don't think that's necessary for this sort of sound that we got right now, because it's more instrumental stuff. It's more Central C stuff or Millions. But I think we did enough here with the mixing, and now I'm going to sort of branch into the new section of just talking about my thoughts on Grime 808s moving forward and where I see them in the genre. I'm a big fan of Grime 808s. I'm not gonna lie. I've really been messing with them as of late. You know, I wasn't a huge Grime 808 guy before, but I really love them now. I personally don't see them being super duper big though, and I'll explain why. Right now, drill is sort of stagnant. It's not really changing super fast. I mean, we're finally getting rid of that old drill half-sped piano sound on like every beat, which is really dope, because, you know, it got boring after a while. But I think it's gonna take a long time, like possibly years, for Grime 808s to become super commonplace in drill. And that's just because the slow moving nature of drill and the slow change of drill. I can see it being used heavily in the underground scene, because you know, you have your more mainstream drill, and then you got your more underground stuff, and I can see it being used in there because the underground is almost always the first people that are going to be innovating and mixing and messing with new styles. So I think we could see Grime 808s be big in the underground. Basically, to sum up my whole point, SparkNote version of my point is, the industry is going to stick with industry sounding stuff right now, and I don't see Grime 808s making a huge impact in the mainstream sort of wave until years, months in the future. You know, I don't see it becoming super big anytime soon. But as I said, I'm a big Grime 808 guy. I love them, and you know, I'm really excited to be able to experiment more with them in the future and be able to cook up with them more. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents, but what do I know? This was Grime 808s, you know, how I like to do them, my take on where I see them in the future, and making a beat with them. Hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, your support would be greatly appreciated. If you could go down, drop a like and a comment, give me some feedback and some suggestions for future videos. And if you could also hit the subscribe button down there, that would be great. I was on my YouTube analytics, right? Only around 8% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed to the channel. So hit that subscribe button right now. Let's get that number up to 20% as soon as possible. As I said, guys, thank you again for watching. And when I say see you guys later, and the final beat's gonna drop, it's gonna be awesome. So see you guys later.